Alright, back out here at the carport garage. What all? And I was making a video on that one because the axles leak. They don't leak much, but I tried putting some sealer on them. Actually, they're not even leaking now. Drove it around the block. Might have quit. Anyway, I put some sealant on the axles. Where it had leaked before, and all of it was on the tire, all the way around the tire. It's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I was making a video on that, but it looked like that one was still leaking, so I was going to try to redo it and adjust the video as needed. But anyway, on this one right here, we're going to fool with this one today. Oh, I'm way too zoomed in. But anyway, yeah. So I learned, and I didn't really even know this until I started messing with this stuff, but like putting this surge tank in and running the wires to the trunk. But the longer the wire loses voltage, and the longer the wire is, the bigger it needs to be. So I just got 10 gauge wire ran right here. I got 12 gauge wire ran to the relays to kick the pumps on. And I'm losing from there to there, I'm losing about a half a volt. Then from here to there, I'm losing about a half a volt. So I got 4 gauge wire to run from here to there. And then I'm going to change these 12 gauges out for 10 gauge. Losing 1 volt probably ain't that big of a deal, but I want to fix it to where, yeah, it doesn't lose a whole volt. And then I also got a Hobbs switch to kick that second pump on, so the second pump don't run all the time. If y'all looked in one of my last videos, running both of them pumps at the same time, trying to do idle and cruise made it impossible to tune the tables. It's just too much fuel. And yeah, it was the vacuum reference on the fuel pressure regulator with both pumps running. It should lower the pressure when it sees vacuum. It wasn't really lowering the pressure that much. For one pump running, it does lower the pressure. So that's the reason for that. I guess just too much fuel is getting through there. Too much fuel's having to cycle through it at idle and cruise, and it's just not enough to go through there and return. So yeah, need to put that second pump on a Hobbs switch. Now I'm just going to put it right. There ain't very many options on these LS1 intakes. This is not. That's a clean air in for the the PCV system. We're not even using that because we've got a catch can. So you got this port here. I got that port, and then you got the port for the brake booster in the back. Most people have brake booster, but I got manual brakes, so I've plugged that port. Plus, it's so far back there, I don't even want to mess with it. It's hard to get your hand back there. So this one port runs the blow-off valve and the regulator, and then this port I'm just going to tee in right here, and then have the Hobbs switch right here, and I'll probably just ground it right there, and that'll be the ground for the relay to kick the relay on. Once the Hobbs switch sees a certain amount of pressure, it'll complete the circuit and ground it out and turn the relay on. Also, something else we're going to do, we're going to put 3-pound wastegate springs in this thing because we're going to try to slow it down. And the reason for that is because Kentucky Dragway is having a car wars race, and they have a 10-0 index, 11-0, 12-0, and 13-0 index. And we're going to go Friday and try to get this thing to run 11-0, which it ran 10.6 on 4 pounds of boost, so I don't even know how that's even possible. The car ran 12.2 on motor. But anyway, we're going to put a 3-pound spring in it, and hopefully we can adjust the timing and the boost with that 3-pound spring to run 11.0. Now this car will run a 10.0 pretty easy if I turn it up, stuff like that, especially with the pumps working the way they should, and the tune and blah blah blah. But it's supposed to have 14 gears in it. I bought the gears used, and I did not count and do the math to see if they were actually 14 gears. They act more like 430 gears, and even on that 10.2 pass, man, it was hitting like 7,500 RPM, and I don't like to turn this motor that high. Maybe 72, but I mean, if we turn up the boost to run a 10, it's even going to get worse. So I'm going to get some 355 gears to put in it before we try to go real fast with it. See how fast that turbo go. But yeah, this weekend, 11.0 index, Kentucky Dragway. That's the goal. Oh, and I just used that for the map sensor, by the way. The map sensor deadheads and just reads pressure, so does the Hobbs switch. So the pressure should be the same inside that too, no matter what. But it's going to be going off intake boost rather than yeah, the boost at the turbocharger and on the intake pipe. It's going to show a little bit higher, but the Hobbs switch is adjustable, so I can put it to where I want it to come on. I'll probably have it come on. It's adjustable from 3 to 7. I'll probably have it come on around 5 pounds of boost. All right, ran 4 gauge over here, then a 10 gauge through the relay to the pumps, and this is just 14 gauge. I had 14 gauge here before, so we went from 14 to 10, had 10, went to 4, and to trip the relays, you don't really need a big wire to trip the relays. These are 12 or 14, I can't remember. But this one is hooked up to come on when I flip the switch. So this one I turn on, and it's already, they're both grounded out over here. But now this one that turns the power on for this pump, that's the one we're going to run all the way back to the front of the car to the Hobbs switch. And I'll probably just use a 12 gauge wire, because the length of the wire having to be bigger, you lose the volts. That has a lot to do with how many amps it pulls. These pumps pull like 25 to 30 each. That's why the longer the wire, a lot bigger it needed to be, because it pulling that many amps through that wire, it was losing voltage. I'm sure it was losing amps too, but if I'm not saying that correctly, y'all correct me. I'm not an electrician. But anyway, I do know if it's pulling a lot of amps, the longer the wire, the bigger it has to be. But now if it's not pulling hardly any amps at all, the longer the wire, the bigger it has to be. But it doesn't have to be that big. So I could, to trip this relay, I could probably use a 20 gauge wire. If it was like a foot long or something, and then a 12 gauge wire 19 feet long would be fine, because this only uses, to trip this relay, I don't even think it takes an amp. But anyway, we're going to kick the pumps on, read what it says here, and read what it says here, and see what we're losing now. Oh, and before, we was losing 1 full volt from the battery to here with the 10 gauge and then the 14 gauge. This was 14 gauge. Now it's 10 gauge. That was 10 gauge, and now it's 4 gauge. And ta-da! Did I say amp a while ago? We were losing 1 volt. Now it was 12.5 here, 12.3 here. So we're only losing 0.2 of a volt rather than a full volt now. That'll work. That is just fine. Now we need to put the Hobbs switch in. And for this relay to kick on this pump, we want it to go through the Hobbs switch. So we're going to run probably a 12 gauge wire all the way back up, all the way to the front of the car, and hook the Hobbs switch up. So as I expected, it does have a lot to do with the amps, and to kick that relay, I think it's only 1/4 of an amp, and even if it was 1 amp, a 20-foot long wire, 20 gauge would be plenty. So I'm just going to run a 16 gauge, because really the only thing in length that I have that'll go that far is a 14, a 16, and a 10. I could probably use the 16, but I'm gonna use 14. Alright, got it stuck in a brass T, all screw clamped down. The ground's right there. It goes back in there, and we'll run it all the way back to the trunk and plug it into the relay. Alright, double check the fuel pressure is back at 43. It's more around 48, 44, but oh well. Yeah, everything's hooked up. I ran that wire back to the relay, and yeah, so this one gets, the relay gets power through the bottom, power comes through the top. Again, this relay, power through the bottom, power through the top. These grounds are just ran to ground. This relay kicks on with a switch under the steering wheel, and then this relay, it's already got power to it. I got power ran around to the switch, and then the ground, the relay's got to have power and ground to activate. It's got power from the switch I can turn off and on, and then this one's already grounded to the ground block, and this one goes up to the Hobbs switch, and the Hobbs switch won't ground it out until it sees a certain amount of pressure, a boost, and then that'll kick this other pump on. Alright, and this Hobbs switch has an Allen or a screw up inside him. You just pop this out. Oh, I might have to have 2 hands to do it, and we'll adjust it a little bit. But you can also ohm these out and then apply pressure here, and you'll, when it ohms out, you'll know what pressure it comes on and adjust as needed. But alright, so I adjusted that in just about as far as it would go, and then backed it out like a turn. It's pretty far up in there. That one's adjustable from 3 to 7. It comes preset to 4, and I screwed it in, so hopefully it comes on around 5 or 6. But even if it came on at 7, it would be fine. But that's going to do it for that video. Rewiring the fuel pumps and the surge tank, and putting in a Hobbs switch. Y'all like and subscribe. Have a great day.